Привет! Сегодня я покажу вам интервью с Тони Манганом, человеком, который уже 5 лет пешком путешествует по миру, толкая перед собой маленькую тележку с самым необходимым. Когда я в соцсетях рассказала вам вкратце его историю, вы передали ему очень много вопросов, и он с большой готовностью и радостью на них ответил. Кстати, он читает все ваши комментарии, поэтому я прошу, пожалуйста, поддержите его под этим видео.
Hello, Tony. Tell us, please, about the way you travel the world.
Hello, Tanya. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you and to your viewers. My name is Toни Mangana. I'm an extreme athlete from Ireland, and I'm walking around the world. Yes, walking. I push this cart that you can see in the photo, and the name of the cart is Karma. I have a name for it. And so I began my expedition on the 27th of February 2016, so we're coming up to almost 5 years, and in that time I walked across Europe, Russia, from the Latvia border all the way to Lake Baikal, and then I headed south to Mongolia, China, Vietnam, and then that was Europe and Asia completed, and then I flew to Perth, Australia. I walked around Australia and New Zealand and returned to Asia, Southeast Asia, for some more extra distance because I was enjoying it so much. And then I got the idea when I was in Korea to come back, and I decided I would walk some Africa. So that's what I'm doing here. I started Africa in Rwanda, walked to Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and then I walked on towards Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Oman. I left my baggage in Oman, and so because of Corona, it's paused my walk. Almost 9 months ago, I stopped walking. It's like a little bit of a holiday in Zanzibar, and so having a good time. The walk is not only an adventure, it has a cancer awareness message that early cancer screening save your life. Can save your life, because my mother died from cancer, and it came unexpectedly out of the blue, as we say. Her diet was almost perfect. Didn't eat much red meat. Ate a lot of fruit and vegetables. Exercised, and it took the family by surprise.
Yeah, and that was my second question, by the way. Why do you do this? And you told me before that your mom said that she kept you walking and you kept her living.
Yeah, she inspired me because I wanted to do this kind of traveling for 20 years. Before this, actually, I cycled around the world when I was younger, and then I ran around the world. In 2010, I was on my world run. Now I'm on a world walk. Keep getting slower, cycling, running, walking. On the world run, which was my life's dream. I'd been talking about it for 20 years. And eventually I started in October 2010. And in the middle of that, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And I went back to Ireland to see how she was doing, and for our first chemotherapy. And I wanted to shorten my journey, but my mother insisted that I did not shorten, I did not compromise my journey. I had to do it the way I planned. As she said to me, she would be heartbroken if I compromised and shortened it. So in many ways, we kept each other going. My dream became my mother's dream, and obviously I wanted my mother to be there at the finish, and she was. She crossed the finish line with me, and we kept each other going, because there's many times when she was very sick after chemotherapy that didn't go right, and she had a huge amount of strength. I owe all of my strength and mind strength to my mother. She's the strongest woman I ever knew.
Wow, that's very touching.
Thank you.
Okay, and some of my subscribers, they ask about your family. Do you have wife, children?
No, I have no wife, obviously. It would take a very, very patient wife to be married to me, unless there's any lovely lady out there who wants to continue walking around the world with me. But I have no wife, I have no children. As I mentioned, my mother died from cancer, and my father also died many years ago, about 15 years ago. My brother died when I was on the road, actually 4 years ago on Wednesday. I was in China when I got the message to say that he had died. how just all I have left is my sister. How am I lonely? I don't miss home as much as I used to, especially when I'm here in beautiful Zanzibar. It's hard to miss Ireland coming into the winter, the rain and snow and the cold. I'm not really lonely because I keep meeting people every day, and I love meeting people. So it's not only an adventure to travel adventure, it's with my cancer awareness message, but it's also my love of nature, of life, of meeting people. So it's putting it all together, and my love of travel too.
Okay, thank you. And people wonder, how much money do you need for such lifestyle?
Well, as much as possible, it would be the answer to that, but I don't have as much as possible. Typically on the road, it varies. When I'm camping, obviously, I don't need as much money, camping and cooking. But at the moment, about $20 to $30 a day here in Zanzibar. When I'm on the road, I've often survived on $3, $4, $5 a day. It depends. But let's say average $20 a day. And I have a house in Ireland, and it's rented out, and that's my main source of income.
And how much money do you need for flights?
Flights probably averages out at about maybe a year, maybe $600-700 a year. Maybe it depends. For example, I didn't get a single flight for all the way from Rotterdam, Ireland actually. Only got 2 ferries, one from Ireland to England and then one from England to the Netherlands. And the next flight I got was from Vietnam. That was a year and 3 or 4 months, something like that. Oh, it depends. So I just have to be careful and budget for it.
Okay. And what do you usually do when you get ill? Do you have some insurance, and do you use it in different countries?
Yeah, I have travel insurance, but at the moment I'm not traveling. I'm just on holiday here in Zanzibar waiting for the roads to open up, and my travel insurance didn't cover Corona, which was my main concern. So I just let it lapse, and once I start walking again, I'll renew my travel insurance. And but lucky enough, touch wood, I'm a very, very healthy person. I do have a little bit of a cough. That's probably from the fumes from vehicles in places like China and roads where inhaling the diesel fumes. So I do have a bit of a cough. It's asthma, to be honest with you. But other than that, I'm very healthy. I don't seem to, thankfully, I don't seem to have any problems.
Okay, that sounds really great. And what do you usually eat while traveling?
It depends on the country. When I was in China and Russia, it was a lot of noodles. And then when I went to Australia and I was traveling in the outback in the remote sections, I was lucky enough in Australia to have somebody that wanted to drive and take my baggage with me. And so he went on a road trip, and I just paid him the petrol money, and he had a bit of a holiday. Now, he used to cook. When we were in Perth, we went to the supermarket and got 2 supermarket trolleys full of food. It was beans and pasta and all kinds of snacks, and not much fresh fruit or vegetables, obviously being in the outback in Australia. When I'm in cheap countries, I can afford to go into restaurants. When I'm in expensive countries like America or Australia or in Europe, it was very difficult, very expensive to go into restaurants. But sometimes I cook as well, so it's not really a great diet, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Oh, I remember you told me about Saudi Arabia when everyone was so lovely and everyone wanted to give you something. Tell us more about this.
Oh, Saudi Arabia is one of the most incredible countries I've ever been to in my life. Typically, 30, 40 vehicles would stop on the road on these desert roads and ask me, was I okay? Why was I doing it? Several times I tried to count the amount of vehicles that stopped, but obviously everybody wanted to have a little conversation. And I lost count at about 20, 25 vehicles. But almost all of them tried to give me dates, big kilo packages of dates. And as you can imagine, me pushing my cart, dates are very heavy, especially when people insist on giving them. And there was no way they'd take no for an answer. If I said no, they didn't understand, and the people just drove away and left them on the road. So what was I supposed to do? Pick them up and try and give them to somebody else. But that was Saudi Arabia. Even the police were stopping to offer me Coca-Cola or fruit and other snacks. In Saudi Arabia, I kept getting invited into houses as well, and stayed in many, many beautiful yurts. A yurt is like a big tent. And sometimes in the villages, they had community centers. They brought me in and they fed me, and beautiful people. Not like what you read in the media at all. Beautiful people, and I had a wonderful time. But most of the world is like that. Most countries are like that. Saudi Arabia, they go to extremes. They're beautiful, wonderful people.
Great, that's really great. And my next question is, don't you feel lonely while you're walking?
Lonely? Well, depends on where you are. Maybe if I was walking in the middle of a desert and there was nobody around, but even still, even then I have the solitude and I do enjoy it, but I enjoy people. And so other countries it's very difficult to be lonely. In, for example, India, almost impossible to be lonely in India. People crowd around you. If I was in a restaurant, for example, people stand on seats and chairs just to get a better look at me. And there's so many people. Sometimes they stand in front of the windows and the doorways, and they darken the room. It was crazy there, but lovely people everywhere, as I mentioned. Lovely people everywhere. But some countries, it's easier to get lost and be lonely in, but not in India. But lovely people.
Okay. And what was the most dangerous situation while you were traveling?
I've had one or two scary times. When I was in Panama, I stopped for directions, and these two men told me they knew where the place I was looking for. And it was late at night, and they pushed me to the ground on a small piece of grass. And I was lucky I didn't have very much money in my pocket, just $30. So they took the $30, and they were a bit stupid because I had a small backpack on my back. And when they pushed me to the ground, my camera, my iPhone was in my backpack and I was on the ground. And I begged them not to take my passport. They overpowered me, and I was able to speak Spanish, so I was okay. I was able to say in Spanish, please don't take my passport, please don't take. Only a fool would steal a passport, because then I have to involve the police. And so anyway, they just got $30, and I guess they were happy enough with that, and I was happy. He just gave me a little smack in the eye, and I had a black eye for a couple of days. And there was another time in Russia, just outside of Moscow. I was running on the side of the road, walking on the side of the road, and a car came too close to me, very close. He was driving too fast, and I put my hand out just to move away, and I was carrying a water bottle, and it hit his car by accident, and he thought I did it on purpose, and he got out of his car, and he got very aggressive, pushed me off the road into a ditch where there was grass, and he hit me. And I had my phone in my hand, but it was an old iPhone 4, and he looked at it. Will I take this phone? Will I take it? Oh no, only old iPhone 4. And he didn't take it, and he just went away. Hit me. He went away. So other than him, I'd rather talk about the lovely people in the world, not the bad people, but so many wonderful people in the world, so many. And it's a great way to see the world on foot, because you see a country gradually changing, like peeling an onion. It unravels. You see a country layer by layer, piece by piece. You see it gradually changing the countryside from tropics to jungle to desert. You see it changing from flat land to mountains, and the people, and you hear their accent changing, where they have different dialects. So it's the best way when you travel slowly. this is the experience you get. When you travel in a bus or in a car, you can be asleep. You can be asleep and not notice anything for 10 hours or whatever. 10 hours in the car can probably take me 3 weeks walking maybe.
Yeah. Okay, and tell me please about your past, about your extreme running and cycling.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I was. It's a long story, so be prepared. When I was younger, I read a book by an Irish woman called Evelyn Murphy, Ireland to India on a bicycle. I was 21, and I read this book 2-3 times, and I said, "Okay, Tony, are you going to read this book again, or are you going to do it?" So I said, "Okay, I'll cycle to Ireland to India." Then I started planning it, and I asked myself a question: what are you going to do when you get to India? Are you going to cycle back or get in an airplane and come back? And I said, no, I'll keep going. So that's how I cycled around the world, kept on going once I get to India. And many years passed, and I stopped cycling, and I moved to America, to Colorado, which is the home of extreme running. And I entered a lot of races, 24-hour races, 48-hour races, and became very competitive at 48-hour races. And currently I hold 2 world records for 48 hours running, which first one is on a treadmill, which is a running machine, 405 kilometers. And the second one is actually in competition, 48-hour indoor track in Brno, the Czech Republic, 2007. 426 kilometers. So they were my main successes in competition. And, I trained a lot, and I was pretty okay at extreme running. And that's where the idea, my dream of running around the world was born, from the training sessions, running 20-30 kilometers in training in a city park called the Phoenix Park in Dublin, my city. And I dreamt up the world run. And then eventually, at the end of competition, I decided it was time to live my dream when I retired from competition. After I finished the world run, I wanted to do this kind of crazy stuff, continue doing it, but I didn't want to run anymore. I got a little bit tired of running after 50,000 kilometers running around the world, and I decided I would slow down and walk. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm walking.
How do you carry your things when you're walking? Tell us about this.
I push my baggage, my tent.
I will show a photo when, yeah.
Okay. I push my tent, my cooking equipment, my food, my clothes, everything I need in this cart. It's a baby jogging stroller. So to answer your question earlier on, do I have children? I took the baby out and I put the tent in and started walking. That's a joke. But in America and Canada, the people used to phone the police saying I was walking, pushing a baby on the highway, and the police were obliged to come out and check on me, and they used to come up to me every day and say, "We got a report that, sir, American police always say, sir, we got a report that you're pushing a baby along the highway, and can we have a look?" And they had to pull everything out. Now there's no baby under here, underneath my baggage. You can go ahead. Yeah, so it's certainly a lot easier to push it than to carry it on my back. Thank goodness for these carts. I love this cart. Yeah.
Okay. And what are your plans for future? I mean, plans for this trip and plans after this trip finishes.
Well, at the moment, we don't have lockdown, as you know, here in beautiful Zanzibar. So I'm enjoying it. I'm almost like semi-retirement, waiting for the road to open up. I mentioned earlier on in the interview, I left my baggage in Oman. So I have to return there to pick up my baggage. And I also mentioned earlier on in the interview that when I walked most of Asia, I was in East Asia near Japan. That's when I decided to come back come through Africa. So I'm going to return to my route which is in Japan, and then continue walking in Japan probably 4 or 6 months. And then after that, more than likely, it'll be the United States, and then it'll be back to Europe, Southern Europe. My plan is to go to somewhere close to Gibraltar, Spain, Portugal, up to France, through the United Kingdom, and back to Ireland, my country, and do what I did near the end of my world run, full lap of my country. Yeah, so after that, I'm pretty sure I'll come back to Zanzibar. So beautiful here. It's one of them, I'm often asked where's the best place I've ever been to. Now, best can mean many, many things. It can be the prettiest, which was where I used to live in Colorado. Here, it's the exotic nature of it, the lovely, beautiful beaches. So here is my paradise. Here's my paradise. And I'm definitely going to give it another shot, another go when I get back at the end of my world walk. I'll be returning here, and probably, I don't know how long I'll live here, but I'll give it a go, see what it's like. But at the moment, I'm enjoying it.
That's great. So, please tell people more about your message. What do you want to tell people?
As I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, my message, it's not only an adventure by expedition, it's also a cancer awareness message that early cancer screening can save your life. Because my mother, she didn't have any, she was very, very healthy. She had a very good diet, ate fruit and vegetable every day, didn't eat very much red meat, and exercised, and she got cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer from nowhere, really, and we don't have a history of cancer in our family, and it was a shock. So my message is that if you're going to your doctor for a health checkup, consider being checked for cancer. Many people have listened to my message around the world, and some have gone to their doctors, and 5 or 6 people have told me that they discovered tumors just on the basis of my walk and my message. So it is working, folks. So my message is that early cancer screening, checking, can save your life.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you much, Tanya. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I'm very happy that I met you.
Я получила большое удовольствие от общения с Тони. Надеюсь, вы тоже. Если у вас появились еще какие-то вопросы, обязательно пишите, Тони ответит. И часто я в путешествиях встречаю людей с необычной судьбой. Будет ли вам интересно узнавать о них? И, вероятно, это мое не последнее видео на YouTube. Буду рада услышать, о чем мне снимать следующее.